Hey, welcome to episode 8 of the Bonus Material Podcast. I'm Sean.
I'm Heather.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Langley.
So, Tom, lead us off. We got some news to start, don't we?
Well, I thought we'd leave it to me, the guy that went to mortuary college, to first bring up some deaths of note that happened. The first step we want to talk about is Rod Taylor died.
Taylor.
Bummer, yeah. Great in a couple of films, like sort of an iconic actor. If you haven't seen him, check it out.
The Time Machine. That's where I'd go.
Yeah.
Birds.
Morlocks.
Yeah.
Fucking Morlocks up left and right. Gotta love it. With Yvette Mimieux as well.
Yeah.
Welcome to Whoop Whoop.
And then Anita Ekberg, at one point Mrs. Keith Richards, is also gone. The star of La Dolce Vita. She was also in Fangs of the Undead by one of our favorite directors, Armando de Osorio, the man behind the Blind Dead series.
Yep. Also in the Nun movie.
Yes. Which I think
God, I love the Nun movie.
I think it's simply called A Killer Nun.
Yeah, Killer Nun, exactly.
One of the
Who
early
could forget Killer Nun?
You
one
could,
of the earlier examples of nunnification, which is a genre that I actually kind of like. And even though Heather refers to me as a nun a lot of the times.
It's true. We can make a movie around you. I think you'd look pretty in a habit, maybe some red lipstick and a 45.
Sweetheart, you have no idea.
We can talk about the whole nunsploitation thing a later time. Speaking of nunsploitation,
wait, hold on. One more guy who shuffled off this mortal coil that I really want to mention, and because we all love character actors, and that's Taylor Negron, the pizza delivery guy.
I was so sad when I found out that he died, because growing up watching him on his silly comedies, especially One Crazy Summer, it broke my heart, and he was so young. I love him in his strange acting with his strange lisp. I can't get over that he's dead. All these other people are very iconic, but the Taylor Negron, we live in a world without him, I don't even want to go on living.
Yeah.
He always shows really weird, not weird, but different roles.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it? Well, also, these other folks that passed away, they're all old and they lived long, storied lives. But wasn't Taylor Negron young to have died, to have passed away?
He was
like 58.
in 1957.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was very young.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And again,
if you don't know who he is, Google him, or pizza delivery guy in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Yeah, we'll read the blog for more on Taylor Negron.
Nothing But Trouble. One of the worst films ever.
I'm surprised you don't love that movie, actually, Heather.
My sister is obsessed with that film. That's why I think there's something wrong with her.
You're more a Transylvania 65000 girl, aren't you?
Always. And I will keep telling Fright Rags that they need to put out a Radu and Loopy shirt. That says, I'm low and I'm lower on the back. That's all I want.
I think we've got more pull with Rotten Cotton.
Do you think...
Let's hammer Sean Lewis about that.
We should bring him on the show and make requests.
No
I don't know, man. I want a shirt with Dan Aykroyd's giant penis nose from Nothing But Trouble.
And then on the back, he doesn't have his nose on. Spoiler. But he takes it off and starts singing.
I think that's the only film from that era that's as disturbing as the Garbage Pail Kids movie.
Oh, yeah, with those two fat kids that worked in the junkyard.
Easy. Gravity challenged.
Anyway, let's move on with the news. Batman, Superman may be cut into two pieces. What do you guys think about that?
I'll never care about Superman. No one can make me.
But you care about Batman, right?
I love Batman.
Why do you hate America?
Because when they were together in the animated series, I love the Bat when he was by himself, but then when they put the Justice League together and Superman was there, it kind of got lame for me. So I don't like that they're...
Anytime they put Batman with somebody else, he becomes a dude. He needs to be alone.
He does.
Even the other characters in those universes say that.
But the thing of it is I can't imagine the story, other than an overly convoluted one like Man of Steel was, that they're going to tell in Batman and Superman. What's hard to not work into one film? They meet, they fight, they become friends. Credits. So why break that into what's probably going to be 4.5 hours of runtime? Shut up.
What part of the comic canon are they together that could make sort of a 2-part film?
Oh, they're all over the place. They're thick as thieves, those two.
Do you get the feeling that when like the rest of the Justice League are sitting around having a good time, and then Superman shows up and they're all like,
they gotta
fucking
put away their drugs and alcohol.
It's like, yeah, put away your bong, Superman's here.
He's like the eternal wet blanket, that guy.
That's why I'm all disappointed. It's like, Batman, Superman movie. How?
I told Frank Miller once that I thought that Superman is a guy whose bed is probably always made.
That's because he ain't with the lady.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to be with that guy?
I don't want to be with him.
How many now Loises can you hear? Now Lois. Anyway, I think it's a money grab. I'll leave it at that.
All superhero movies are money grabs.
Yeah, but they can be
true.
good money grabs. I mean,
right.
Guardians of the Galaxy was,
that was
2 hours.
Money grab.
Yep.
Even though I saw it for $0, I still loved it.
So, moving on, Guillermo del Toro directing a pilot for HBO's A Killing on Carnival Row. Supposedly, directors Neil Jordan and Tarsem Singh were going to do the film, but then left after a bunch of studios passed on it. So, a bunch of studios passing on it sort of explains why it's at HBO. But Guillermo del Toro directing a pilot, sure, I'll tune in.
Do any of us know what it's about?
I have no idea. I've never heard of it before. I like the title.
Mm-hmm.
I like what it says to me visually. Who knows if that's what it's about? But Del Toro, I'm always on board. Even bad Del Toro is better than most stuff I see.
Like Blade 2?
Yeah, that's a good example.
I love Blade 2.
I know you love Blade 2, but it's still a comic book movie.
Of course it is.
My favorite of the Blade
Okay,
series.
because I've had the screenplay for like years. Actually, the screenplay's been bouncing around for a long, long time, and I think it was even on the Blacklist, which is we probably all know what that is, but for anybody who doesn't, it's a list of I think 25 or 50 screenplays that are hot in Hollywood, and it's been circulating around that. I just kind of hit IMDb real quick though because I have not read the screenplay, but it says that it is about a serial killer preying on mystical creatures. So I assume there's going to be a circus kind of atmosphere or whatever. Again, we'll put more on the blog
even more
about
in.
it. I know, great timing, right, Tom? Wink, wink.
Yeah, I know. I'm even more in.
Yeah.
When I hear that, yeah, sure. Right on.
As long as it doesn't have music by the Insane Clown Posse.
It won't.
No, we watched Big Money Hustlers for that.
Oh, God. Ugh, that's why I don't feel well right now.
Anyway. And then also Viola Davis will play prison warden and Suicide Squad wrangler Amanda Waller in the upcoming David Ayer movie. This is the first thing I've heard about Suicide Squad that I'm on board with.
Totally agree.
Yes. Good choice.
Okay, so you know how like in novels, there's usually, especially in like a weird universe, there's usually an everyman character that you identify with as the reader that kind of leads you into this world. What the fuck is the Suicide Squad?
Oh, it's like a team that gets. It's like, think of it as a Dirty Dozen in their underwear. It's like a bunch of villains. Yeah,
League?
A bunch of villains who they convince, like, look, it benefits you to do this, which also benefits us.
Okay. So it's not a band.
No.
No,
now it's going to be. I think this actress would have been even better, though. Heather, you and I were talking about it online the other night because the character of Amanda Waller is kind of a large woman, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She needs to be physically imposing, but I think that
Octavia Spencer, bro.
Yeah, I know, but you know what? Viola Davis she's badass, man. That new series she's on, and I don't like serialized television, but her performances in the clip I've seen, she just chews that shit up. So
is that Empire?
Yeah.
Or
no, it's How to Get Away with Murder or some
Okay.
I don't know. It's TV, so who the fuck cares? But her performances that I've seen on clips have been formidable, so I'm in.
She's kind of drawn in the comic like Roz from Night Court.
Yeah. I'm sure she was modeled after Roz from Night Court. She's alternately like a badass and very kind of matronly, but she'll sell you out, man. Don't trust that. Amanda Waller. So there we go. That's kind of the things we picked up around on the web and wanted to talk about. Is there anything that we got bouncing around each of us that we can recommend, either like books or movies or comics or anyone?
Again, if you go to the blog, I reviewed the first issue of a comic I really liked a lot called Rumble. It's out on Image. It's this weird kind of scarecrow creature pops up in this kind of post-apocalyptic city, and this bartender ends up with its sword after supposedly killing it when it attacks a patron, blah, 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 blah. Again, it's reviewed on the blog. John Arcudi is the guy who wrote it. He's involved with a lot of the Hellboy universe stuff, and it blew me away. It's, I read a lot of comics, and this totally stood out. That, Ghosted as well, which is kind of a Legend of Hell House kind of thing. This group of semi-criminals gets hired to steal a ghost for a rich guy. It's, like I said, very Legend of Hell House, very The Haunting meets a heist flick. So yeah, those are my books. Rumble and Ghosted, both comics.
Having not read it, I was playing on my Tumblr and I came across this great image of Death-Faced Ginny and went to go research where she's from. She's kind of like a female, killer sort of character, kind of like the guy in Preacher. And I was looking it up and there's this book, and Sean said that he's read it. It's pretty great, Pretty Deadly.
Yes.
Which is a Western, which is like a mystical Western comic, drawn by two women. And the characters look incredibly badass, and I would predict and I would love to see that turned into a film at some point.
I bet it is.
The design of the characters in this world are amazingly cool.
It's called Pretty Deadly?
Pretty Deadly, yeah. It's a mystical sort of noir-esque Western. I think it just came out last year. So one could, from Image Comics, so one could run and probably get some of those issues. I want to start reading in that.
Yeah, I think the first trade came out recently. I think it's about 10 or 11 issues deep, so anybody who's interested in it, you still have time to catch up and jump into the universe.
It's not totally old. And I would suggest for all you listeners out there, since I'm very old school and I go to St. Mark's Comics and buy all the splatterpunk that I could carry out of that store, I would suggest to all my horror listeners, if you have not experienced or read Taboo, since they're getting pretty low out there in the world, and I don't think Steve Bissett has a lot of them on his blog anymore, is to pick those up as a part of your genre learning history.
Okay, wait a minute. It's called Taboo?
You know about it. Taboo.
I love that movie.
Especially the throat.
Incest is best.
Keep the money in the family in the good China. It's true.
Oh, you know what? I have to mention one more comic before we move on. I just read the first issue. It's 4 issues deep. It's by a huge writer named Scott Snyder, the man responsible for the Court of Owls Batman arc, and a great comic called The Wake. But he's doing one called Witches right now with a Y. It's the only comic book that's ever scared me. So I'll leave it at that. I'm going to review it on the blog. Witches with a Y. Don't read it in the dark, which would be hard anyway, but just saying.
Road Sprockets in Taboo is pretty creepy for me, which is based on the Tim Lucas story.
Yeah, it's a great book.
I've not read the book. I've only read the comic sections in Taboo, but I hear it's
shout
great.
out to Tim Lucas. Just saying.
Oh yeah.
I just picked up Working Stiff by Judy Melnick and T.J. Mitchell. It's behind the scenes of a coroner or a forensic surgeon, and it's just
fiction or nonfiction.
Nonfiction, and it's all just once you get past the introduction, it's basically just a collection of. And then there was this one guy story.
I can't wait to read that.
Yeah. It begins with a guy who had a crane fall on his head. and so and then it gets into her, being a young student. So yeah, so far it's a great fun read.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking about that. A crane falling on something.
I actually posted a quote from her from the book the other night on my Facebook page where she's talking about the difference between dogs and cats, and she says basically a Labrador, if you die in your house next to your dog, your golden lab's going to sit there and just pretty much go hungry and mourn your death. But a cat, right away, is going to start making a meal out of you.
I'll tell you from personal experience that's a lie. Your dog will eat you just as much as your cat will, yeah.
So you're calling the writer a liar?
No, I'm just saying that she's...
Taxidermia, where when one of the characters dies and pulls back to a couple seconds later and the cats are eating him.
Yeah. Oh, cats will eat you lickety-split, man.
Cats try to eat you while you're alive.
That's what they're licking you to soften up the skin so they can eat you. And then I'll throw out there that I've been listening a lot to Sun Kill Moon's album Benji. It's music to slit your wrists to. It's kind of folky and what have you, but wow, the lyrical content is incredible. So yeah, Sun Kill Moon.
I checked him out. It sounded kind of shoegazy to me, but I like that stuff.
It is.
Is it apocalyptic folk or what?
Yeah, it's more like the music you listen to as you were staring into the mirror as you were slitting your throat.
That's every day for me. So that's
I was going to say.
Standing in the middle of the desert, I'll add.
I'm on that.
I've been listening a lot to Brendan Perry's Eye of the Hunter. For folks who don't know, Brendan Perry was the male half of Dead Can Dance. And one of the things that always bothered me about Dead Can Dance was...
Linda Perry.
Exactly.
Is the yodeling.
And so without her, I love this stuff, man. I mean, and I think of it as music to live in the Pacific Northwest by. It's like it drips fog, this music does. Yeah. So if you're into kind of a dark, slow, ambient, just the ghost of Jim Morrison kind of pulling you along toward the darkness, this is your album.
Are you guys going to post some of the music on the blog?
Absolutely.
I will.
So is he pulling it back to like the 4AD days, kind of?
No, this is more. I mean, there's elements I hear, at least elements of kind of Gothic Americana in there. It's less, for lack of a better word, international than Dead Can Dance. Well,
their very early stuff was super gothy. They got kind of, for lack of a better word, folky later.
Oh, dude, they're like the soundtrack in every goth club in America.
It's weird. Them and Cocktail Twins like live in this weird space.
Mortal Coil as well.
Yeah. Where it's like, is it goth? Not really. Is it?
It was that weird netherworld of what they used to call ethereal music.
Yes, exactly.
Like, like Project Records stuff.
Black Paper, Blue Girl.
Yeah.
Hard to say exactly what it is. Other than
great.
It's great.
You know what's funny is I went and saw Dead Can Dance right when I moved to Salt Lake. I'm remiss to even call them a band because I think they even transcend that a little bit. But it was all wine and cheese people, and it was all death and black metalers.
Yeah,
right. It's really weird. But if you get a chance, check it out. Brendan Perry's Eye of the Hunter, specifically Death Will Be My Bride.
Nice.
And My Captive Heart. Anyway, and the other thing that I wanted to bring up, I totally forgot. So go.
So yeah.
I started out, I was going to talk about an instrumental kind of funk band called the Budos Band and their new album Burn Offering. But as I was poking around, I went to NPR and checked what albums they were streaming in their entirety because, of course, NPR does this thing where you can hear the whole album until its release date. And I came across this artist named Kat Dahlia. She's like, and you guys kind of know me. I don't listen. I love pop music, but the new stuff that's got all hip hop beats and vocoders and all that shit, I'm just like, no. I'm notorious for my hatred of stuff like Kanye West. This woman employs some of those kinds of production techniques, but she writes her own material, and when she unleashes her voice, it's somewhere in the realm of Janis Joplin meets a Cuban singer. I don't really know how to put it. Again, I'll post some on the web. And I ended up listening to her album, My Garden, streaming 3 times in a row today. So that's the one I'm going to pick. It's really out of the box for me. I was talking to my friend Rory, actually, who's been trying to get me to listen to some more of this kind of stuff. And he didn't like it as much as I did, but he thought I was joking at first. That I was like, this album is the fucking shit. So yeah, Cat Dahlia, My Garden, now streaming on NPR for the next couple of days.
If you can't, put some up at the blog.
Oh, I will.
Very cool. That actually sounds pretty cool. I just wanted to mention, by the way, that how distressed I am that I happen to share part of the name with Kanye West. That really, really bugs the hell out of me. By the way, I did remember what the other recommendation was that I was going to bring up, and that was a book, it's several years old now, by Greg Bear called Dinosaur Summer. Dinosaur Summer, it tells the story of trying to return the dinosaurs that Professor Challenger brought back from the plateau in the Lost World back to that plateau and what goes wrong. Of note to folks like me is Ray Harryhausen and Willis O'Brien are both actually characters in the book. It's very cool. It's a blast, man. It's a lot of fun. It's about this 14-year-old kid who's with his dad on this expedition. It is so cool. If you get a chance, check it out.
Well, guess what, Langley? I just bought that.
Oh, shit, yeah.
I'm looking at it sitting on a stack right now. I found it for $1 at this wonderful used bookstore actually at the DI, run by the Mormons, down the street from me.
As soon as you get a chance, read it. It's really fun.
Fuck yeah.
Right on.
Should we
Anybody have anything else?
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Tom.
I was just going to say, does anyone have anything else?
That's about it. I don't really have time to read any novels after reading so many people's screenplays.
Look at you.
I've been doing that too, actually.
let me just put my foot up on this cabana boy and tell you about
not to brag, but and no, I can't send it out. Sorry, but I finally found my holy grail of screenplays, you guys. Actually, the 2 I was looking for: John Sayles' draft for Jurassic Park 4, and Roger Avery's Phantasm's End screenplay.
Oh wow.
Yes. Hoo-ah. And Heather, you'll be glad to know I also nabbed Cronenberg's Total Recall draft. So
that's cool. I do want to read his book Consumed very badly when I have like a second to read a book.
Coming at you.
Cronenberg's?
Yeah.
Oh, right on.
About,
What's it called?
It's called Consumed.
Okay.
It's a love story about this, I believe it's a doctor who's obsessed with one of the patients, and she has these weird things growing in her. And it's kind of like that he documents all of their sicknesses, kind of. So I need to read that.
Heather, have you ever read...
David Cronenberg, isn't it? Weird things growing in you?
Yeah.
And Tom can probably remark on this writer more than me. Have you ever read Kathy Koja?
I have not.
Oh, yeah. Her book Skin is in seminal reading.
What year was that?
80-something. Heather, you in particular, you will fall in love with the book Skin.
Yeah, you will. As a matter of fact, if I reread it, I would probably cast you in my mind as one of the characters. Cronenberg is a big fan of it as well. So
yeah, you would really like that book.
I'll find it.
Let me repeat that. You'd really like that book.
In that way, in that romantic way. Yes.
What about movies, you guys? I'll start. I finally got around to watching Whiplash with J.K. Simmons and the kid who's going to be the stretchy guy in the reimagined Fantastic Four. I forget his name. He's great. It's about a kid at a jazz school. He's a drummer. J.K. Simmons from like Oz, and he's J. Jonah Jameson in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man is his incredibly vicious music instructor. I was a professional musician for 25 years. I've been in incredible pressure cooker situations in studios and with other musicians. This movie fucking nails it. And I was actually saving it for, like, the perfect moment, you know? And when I watched it, it's one of those rare movies where it always is the perfect moment for this film because it's so fucking good. So run, don't walk, and go see Whiplash. There's a reason it did so well at Sundance last year, and there's a reason it ended up on so many people's best of lists this year. Highly, highly recommended.
J.K. Simmons is the shit, man.
Yeah.
I mean, like, in anything I've seen him in.
Even in the Adventures of Pete and Pete when he was in that one episode. But I remember him from the 90s, and then he just never...
Yeah.
And his range is awesome. I mean, look at he's like the cool dad in Juno, and then he's like the bastard in something else. So, you know, yeah.
Dude, he was, you know, I'm sorry, I'm going off script for a second. The Lady Killers, the Coen Brothers remake of The Lady Killers, is one of my favorite movies of all time. It gets so much hate.
Oh, I know.
But one of the reasons that I love it is the J.K. Simmons character. He's great in that.
I love watching Tom Hanks' performance in that film. So weird.
You don't like him playing Colonel Sanders?
I love that, his performance. His choice in acting, how he dressed.
I'm writing that down because I've not seen that one yet.
Oh, dude, check it out. It's one of my favorite Coen Brothers films. Okay, I'm sorry. Back on script.
What about you, Langley? Movie?
What about me? I don't wear white suits, nor am I an explosives expert.
You would be great, though, at both of those.
If I was an explosives expert, I would wear white suits. Things I've seen lately, I haven't seen anything new. I go back and I rewatch things over and over again.
Oh, so you have that pathology, some people say.
Yeah, we were talking about that before we started recording, the pathology of repetitive viewing.
Oh, yeah. That's me. Dude, that's me. So I've been rewatching Land of the Lost.
What?
Oh, right on.
Which was, if you don't know, it's not the Will Ferrell movie. Land of the Lost was a Saturday morning kids show. By the way, a long time ago, Saturday morning was reserved for kids viewing cartoons. Right. Right? Yeah. There's no such thing as Saturday morning cartoons anymore. Anyway, it wasn't a cartoon. It was a live-action show. It had a lot of stop-motion animation in it. It was basically a family who got lost in this alternate universe. And, you know, as silly as it is, because it is a kid show, it is silly, it was, you know, the episodes were written by guys like David Gerrold, who's a legend in science fiction circles.
Trouble with Tribbles.
Yeah, exactly. And they handled kind of heady concepts, you know, the idea of, like, alternate realities and how perception is affected by what you see and what you hear. It's a great show. If you ever get a chance, check it out. The acting is really bad, but the sounds and the visuals are amazing.
Readily available on DVD, too. Like, if you have a used DVD shop in your area, you can usually find the Season 1 and Season 2 complete sets for around $10.
Right. You can catch all three seasons on YouTube. They have all 3 seasons on there.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Langley. You're our resident stop-motion expert, but wasn't Jim Danforth involved with that?
He was not. However, Hua Chang was.
Okay.
Hua Chang is a guy that you don't hear a lot about outside of those circles. But Hua Chang worked alongside Jim Danforth and all those cats, especially with Phil Kellerson. So we're going back now. We're going way back. So you're talking the Pillsbury Doughboy when he first started out. Also, Gene Warren Jr. was another guy that was heavily involved with that show. These are guys that they never got the name recognition like Jim Danforth, Phil Tippett, Ray Harryhausen, those type of guys. But they were always there. They were the kind of guys working in the trenches. And they were heavily involved in that show. So, yeah, if you get a chance, especially if you're a stop-motion fan, check out Land of the Lost. If you haven't seen it, it's kind of required viewing.
On Saturdays, did that sort of, like, cap off all the cartoon watching? Because I believe that I watched it sort of in its second run when it wasn't in its Saturday time slot.
I want to say that it was like later in the morning. So like, you watched your Warner Brothers and all that, and then like, it's a little more older kids now. And so you had Land of the Lost. Years later, you had Jason of Star Command, Space Academy,
Run Joe Run,
and then it would usually run into one of those like science shows with like Tom Chapin,
right,
singing songs about like, chlorophyll and
metamorphosis.
Yeah.
When I was young, what kept off my Saturday morning was Dracula the series. That's when I knew like all the cartoons were over.
Yeah.
Whoa, what?
Dracula the series.
Dracula the series?
Uh-huh.
I think I missed this.
It's I would have to go back in time to try to remember what it was about, but it was about a Van Helsing grandfather character and his grandsons in the area. I think it was in Eastern Europe or someplace in Europe, and they had a Dracula there. He had I believe blonde hair, slicked back, and they were always trying to fight them and get into crusades. I don't know if that's on DVD yet. But one of the guys from one of my favorite series, Trevor Knight, played one of the vampires in it before he played Nick Knight in Trevor Knight.
Do you guys remember the original Monster Squad before the Decker movie? And they're not related, but they're almost the same. Fred Grandy, Gopher from The Love Boat, was like this guy who builds like a kind of bat cave and brings Dracula, the Wolfman, and Frankenstein back to life to fight crime.
Vaguely.
Oh, man. I've only found the intro on YouTube. I think it finally got a DVD release, but I'm a broke-ass motherfucker right now, so I haven't even looked on Amazon for it. But holy shit, man, I want to see that really bad. And somehow that got past me when I was a kid. And I was a latchkey kid, so I saw I remember when Electra Woman and Dinah Girl and Dr. Shrinker and all that shit was part of the Crop Super Show thing with Captain Cool and the Kongs, And somehow this show got past me. Saturday morning, fuck yeah, rest in peace.
I never got up before noon, so.
You were already a pot-smoking teenager when I was at You got about 5 years.
Yeah.
I used to get up and take acid and watch Pee-wee's Playhouse, if that makes any difference. Wake up about 6 a.m., drop a couple of tabs, and wait for Beetlejuice the cartoon to lead into Pee-wee's Playhouse and Ralph Bakshi's Mighty Mouse.
All right. So, blatantly illegal behavior aside, this is all allegedly, I assume. So,
I don't have any on me now. It was a long time ago.
So I'll throw out. I just watched not more than a couple of hours ago. Alex de la Iglesia's Witching and Bitching. Awesome, totally awesome. 4 out of 5 stars in my book. Isn't as good as Last Circus, but it's and it's not nearly as good as 800 Bullets, but it ranks up there with things like Perfect Crime and.
Dude, didn't it surprise you how fucking cool it was?
Yeah, I kind of knew what I was getting into, and I knew his sort of storytelling sense. There are groan-worthy moments, but they get brushed under the rug pretty quick, and we move on to something that's really just sort of a fun little spooky movie.
I was very happy when I saw that at Fantastic Fest 2 years ago. It got a lot of people loved it, and then people didn't like it, and some people felt that it was really sexist. But when I was watching them, all the female characters reminded me of all the old grumpy Polish women that raised me. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. To me, it's like they're less hateful and just more empowering, crazy lady characters. And I think it's okay to make crazy lady characters without it being called sexist or anti-female, because I thought it was a lot of fun. The art direction is great. As I told people, it's like Iglesias sort of take on the Addams Family, that kind of look and feel.
Yeah.
And all the it's wonderful to watch.
Well, I don't know that I'd embrace misogyny, but I definitely think that somebody broke his heart pretty hard right before he started making that, because there's some long speeches about women in there that get a little like, ooh, dude. Sitting there with my wife, I kept looking over like, funny, huh?
And only crickets came back. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's super fun.
I've not seen it yet, and it's definitely on my list because I love De La Iglesia. But if I love The Last Circus, is this kind of in the same?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not as serious. It's probably within the realm of something like Day of the Beast. It's,
or Acción Mutante.
Because it's very funny. Like what, Tom?
Yeah. Like Acción Mutante.
Mm-hmm.
It's that kind of like wackiness that's super fun. I mean, and it starts pretty quick. There's not a lot of build up. It's like you're very smartly being told a lot of exposition while on the run, and I noticed that and appreciated it.
It's not a very good analogy, but I'll spit it out anyway. His stuff kind of reminds me if Jodorowsky made movies for kids, like really fucked up kids.
Yeah.
And you're kind of there, while hanging out with Fellini or something.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I get the Jodorowsky. I get that. I fear the idea of him making movies for kids. But it's got that weird sort of Spanish sensibility. They do that very well, and they do the Gothic sort of thriller thing. One thing that was really weird I noticed is that there are two male comedians in drag as some of the witches that it kept bugging me who they were, and as it turns out they're a comedy team from Spain, and the decision to make him in drag is kind of weird.
God damn it, I can't remember the title, but they star in one of his other movies.
Yeah, I'm actually, as you guys keep talking, I'm going to tell you what that is in just a minute because I'm looking them up.
It would be kind of like Simon Pegg and Nick Frost in drag,
except funny. Well, I finally got around to watching Interstellar, which is a movie that really, really polarized the fucking shit out of people, and I don't know what people were complaining about. I mean, I heard like comments like it's joyless, it's too dark. I mean, for one, you're talking about a movie where a guy has to leave his family to find another planet because there's no more food on the Earth. So how to make that a high concept feel good fantasy, I have no fucking idea. So yeah, there's not a lot of joy in that situation, but it's also untrue because as the film plays out, it becomes about, I don't want to give too much away for the three people that probably haven't seen it yet, but how do I put it? Well, of course it's about time and space. They go through a black hole. I'll put it this way. Love and the concept of love and what love may be as far as quantum physics is concerned comes heavily into play, and it's anything but joyless, actually. I'll admit it. The last 20 minutes had me kind of choked up. Again, I don't want to do too many spoilers because it's kind of important to the film, but not the joyless piece of filmmaking that a lot of people were saying. I liked it quite a bit. Even if you don't like stuff like Inception, which I'm not a huge fan of, or even his Dark Knight films, I think there's still something here for you. So yeah, Interstellar was, after all the back and forth about it's great, it's terrible, it exceeded my expectations. Why are you laughing? Because
I said it's terribly great. No,
I cried.
Yeah,
fucking laugh.
It looks great. It looks great. I think people like to line up and give Chris Nolan shit.
By the way, I'm going to take this opportunity to recommend this as a possible topic for future episodes. Since the internet generation is coming along, I get fucking sick of people fucking complaining about shit. You know? Fucking, god damn it.
Hey!
Some dude has fucking laid his heart out on the line and made a fucking movie for you assholes and has poured everything that he has into it, and you guys fucking shit all over it. I fucking hate that shit, and I will address that next time.
Well, I kind of go off on Tarantino a lot, but I think that's a little bit of a different issue.
Well, everyone didn't like Kevin Smith's movies, and he created a really nice JPEG that sort of talked about those things, Langley. It's like, I just wanted to make a film, or isn't it okay to make a film, like in a really nice, kind of humble way. And
yeah, dude,
I can't stand his work. It's like, that's a really nice, graceful way of talking about, I just wanted to make something.
Dude, I can't stand it. Like when people fucking go off on some movie that some guy made. You know, it's fucking hard to make a movie.
It is.
It's fucking a lot of work, and it's really hard. And when people just come out and say, "Oh, it's just like, God damn it, you fucking people, you don't like to have fun. Yeah. Fuck you." Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
You know, just let me add real quick, because we were going to go into this, but we're not going to go into it in depth. I posted something about Quentin Tarantino on a Facebook page called The Gentleman's Guide to Midnight Cinema. A great fucking page. It's got a few thousand people on it. Everybody has a true love for this stuff. I wasn't being very nice to Tarantino, and I was getting raked over the coals, and there's another gentleman who writes, and quite well, named Howard S. Berger, and he was very defensive of Quentin Tarantino, but the beauty of it was, he didn't turn it into an argument. He went for what I was hoping it would have been, which was a discussion. And he kind of turned me around on it. You know, he said, if you're not going to discuss the language of the film, then what's the point? You know, you're just kind of screaming into the wind. And I was like, you're fucking right, dude. You know, so in that regard, he actually made me re-examine something that I had a huge problem with and had a lot of smart things to say. So to add to what you're saying, Langley, when you're in one of these conversations on the internet, it's very easy to get into one-upmanship. Stand outside yourself a little bit and try to turn it into something constructive. Because who wants to hate everything? We should all go into a movie wanting to like it and have a reason to not like it. Stop being so fucking armchair. Huh? No, fuck that. Fuck that. You're going to go into a movie trying to hate it?
You're telling me that it's my obligation as a viewer to go into a piece of art and like it?
No, I said we all go into a movie hoping to like it. That's where we should be.
Inferno.
Why?
Or the remake of Evil Dead.
Then why sit down and spend your time watching it in the first place?
Here's the thing.
Go.
Here's the thing. I don't deny that it's really hard to write a film, to make a film, to act in a film, and just like it's not that I'm comparing them to making a cake, but it's hard to make a cake. At some point, you release that into the world as the best you can do. The world's job isn't to go in expecting to like it or expecting to not like it, but just to experience it. Now, them not liking that is their right to say, as long as their opinion is educated, to say,
well, there's the rub.
This is what I think is wrong with this. Yes, that's what I'm getting to.
There's the rub. And I didn't say expecting, I said hoping. And there's
the problem is that the internet has democratized the world and made everyone think that they have a right to an opinion. And as Harlan Ellison said, no, it ain't like that. You're entitled to an informed opinion, and there's none of that on the internet. It's just people going, well, I saw the trailer, and I think this movie's going to suck.
Yep.
And I don't know shit about shit, but I'll give you my opinion. So, no, I disagree. It's like, if your film, I had a film teacher once tell me, in art, it's shit or it's gold. And I've argued for years the idea of that middle gray area between. But as someone who is being asked for my opinion on a film, it's shit or gold. And there can be crossover. But the idea is that it's my job to tell you what I think.
I don't think we're disagreeing with each other.
The problem isn't that people are expressing their opinion. It's that everyone's expressing their opinion, and no one has any fucking context or brains or background for that opinion.
I don't think any of us are disagreeing.
I know, and I'm not implying that I think you are. I'm just saying that I don't. Again, I'm as someone who hates everything. It's seemingly from our feedback that we're getting. Yeah, I take umbrage with that.
So there. This is why I can't be a film critic for a living, is because if it's something that looks like it's not in my wheelhouse, if it looks like I'm not interested, right? I ain't gonna watch it. So I wind up watching shit that I like. So everything I like, I recommend.
Right.
You know, everything I watch, I recommend.
Same here, because sometimes I've had to watch films because it's something that I had to review or I'm at a film fest, and if I'm not into it, it's like it doesn't give me real great joy to write about it. But if there's something that I'm obsessed with that has layers, that's literally what I want to write about. And that's why generally with my reviews, it's like very specific things and interesting movies that I like, and why I prefer to interview over reviewing films.
Oh, right. Yeah, and also I personally prefer to review in hindsight. Like, there's a film I won't mention right now, but I got a streaming online screener for it, and it's something a lot of people want to see. It's a foreign film, and it's by a huge action director over in Asia, and they were being very tight-assed with the link. And there's this kind of unsaid expectancy to give it a good review because the link is so sought after. And where do you go with that PR contact when you're like, yeah, I watched it and you really need me to review this, and you're pushing me for the URL to the review, and it ain't pretty?
Well, I think you have to say, look, at the outset of that relationship, you have to say, look, you're coming to me for my opinion, and it's always not going to be in your favor.
Well, a lot of the PR people are just happy that they have coverage and happy that you looked at it and put it out there.
Agreed.
And I think a lot of filmmakers, if you have a very interesting way of talking about their work and talking about the film, I think it gives them something to look at, the creator themselves. I mean, I would love, when I get a chance to put something out there, good or bad, what people are seeing in the work. And a lot of great artists, even like I think Jodorowsky mentioned on a seminar that I took with him there, he goes, like, people would say that there's something in his film, and he didn't put it there, but he would always say, yes, that's in my film, because they saw it, therefore it exists in the picture.
To be fair, Jodorowsky's clearly crazy.
Yeah. He's going to change the world.
Love that, man.
Create a new god.
Love.
I was just going to say, holy shit, you went to a seminar sponsored by this madman?
It was the Museum of Art and Design. They had him come over and show all his films, and he did a Q&A at the beginning and the end of all his films, and then he did a full seminar.
Damn,
that would be awesome.
That would be cool. This is the only time I miss living in a big city.
That's hilarious.
Tom, I know you got another one, if we want to keep the hate rolling.
Sure.
Hate sells.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I was going to say, speaking of films that we don't like, Tom, can you give us your review of The Raid 2?
I actually, look, I put up a review on the blog, and I'll just say this, that I've been watching martial arts films for a really long time, and I watch them a lot, and the thing that bugged me about the Raid 2, after the Raid 1, which the Raid 1 was pretty much, you get on an elevator, and you cut the cable, and it's a ride straight to the ground. The Raid 2 just trotted out these hackneyed cliches, story-wise, not martial arts-wise. That's a different story. We'll get to that. But it just seemed like they went down the checklist plot-wise. The martial arts was fine. Long. The film's way overly long, but I think there's long breaks between the fight scenes. And as a fight fan, I start to lose interest because the plot's not there. And there's a knife fight in a kitchen that is alternately one of the coolest things and one of the most frustrating things I've ever seen, because they have this great blade that they don't do anything with, but that's nitpicking.
No, I want to know more about that, because I'm not super familiar with that, and I mean, just I'd like you to contextualize that for me, because I like that scene. So what was missing in it for you?
Okay, dude, Sean. The knives that they were using are called karambits. They come from an Indonesian martial art called pencak silat. And basically it has a unique characteristic in that it can be flipped out to be used externally, or it can be flipped back to used in your fist. And I see this all the time, and it drives me fucking nuts. I hadn't even watched the fight scene, and Tom was saying he was disappointed, and I said, let me guess, they had a weapon with unique characteristics, and they didn't capitalize on those characteristics. And he said, yes, that happens all the fucking time. Look, if you have a particular weapon that has unique characteristics, your job, I think, as the fight choreographer, is to spotlight those characteristics. You want to use if it turns into a fight scene where it's just like you could substitute any weapon for that, then you've just like, why did you even use that weapon? And I know this is, like Tom said, this is nitpicking. This is a martial artist talking about.
I don't think it is nitpicking.
What drives, this scene would drive Filipino and Indonesian martial artists crazy, because the karambit, if used properly, can be used to be so much cooler. You hook things with it. It's a hook, basically. So you hook the neck, you hook the tendons in the arm, you hook the tendons in the leg, and you use it to drag people. You use it to hook. Think about this. Hook the collarbone and drag that son of a bitch to his ultimate doom. That's what that knife is used for, and that's what I'm gathering.
It kind of looks like a velociraptor's claw, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Real briefly. I'm sorry, but I'm apologizing ahead of time. But real briefly, it comes from the concept of a tiger. Cats have the ability to put a claw out or to bring the claw in. As I'm saying that, I'm demonstrating with my fingers. Claws out or claws in. So you can whip that claw out to render maximum damage, or you can bring that claw in to be a little more humane. And that's what's lacking when I see people try to use this particular...
Humane is not a word that I expected popping up in that.
No. Only in that it gets it over with pretty quick.
Right.
The other part that there was a point in that fight scene where he hooks the lead actor behind the knee and basically insinuates that he's cutting tendons, and scenes later he's literally walking downstairs when it's like, no, at that point your walking days are over.
It's done.
Yeah, you're done.
Yeah.
So the other part that bugged me was it did a lot of what I call the Pak school of filmmaking, where you got guys taking massive damage for a really long period of time, and they get beaten to the ground, and then they rally at the end, and they win the day, and it's like, sorry. you don't take a baseball bat to the back 4 or 5 times and do much afterwards. So again, that gets nitpicky. My biggest problem with it, and a lot of American action films, is I feel like no one's trying. They're just going this is what's expected, and we're going to crank it out, and worst case scenario, we don't get this star, but we'll get Michael Jai White or that dude that was in Starship Troopers. So yeah,
let me ask you a question, because we do want to get into more modern action films, and in particular also the casting in those films and the way it's done, and in a lot of times neglecting the right person for the role. But in context of what's wrong with the stuff going on in the Raid 2 and the technicality of the use of the weapons, can you guys name a movie where it's done right? If you're that is the shit, that is the way it happens. I mean, because I know, Tom, you mentioned earlier, there's kind of a rule, 4 strikes and you're pretty much out anyway.
Yeah.
But as far as a martial arts film,
unless you're a nice guy,
But so can either of you give an example of a film with fight scenes other than John Wick that do it right, especially in the martial arts vein?
Okay, I hate to reference these because they're kind of mainstream. Anyway, the fight scenes in the Bourne films, in the Matt Damon Bourne films, are pretty damn good. They're pretty damn good. But I don't see, the thing is I don't consider those an action film. That's just, that's a drama with some action elements. But the fight scenes themselves are really good, I think. They really show this particular type of fighting, anyways, what happens and you know what's real and what's not real. Fuck, as far as that goes, fucking Fight Club. Is a great example.
Is really dirty and real sloppy, but that's I love Man from Nowhere, just because.
Oh God, I saw that at Fantastic Fest, man. And
it's got some great stuff.
It's the only action film I've seen a bunch of grown men sit and cry at too.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Then that shot where he jumps out the window, but that's a whole other. Yeah, I was actually watching that with Andrew Mack from Twitch, and we just kind of looked at each other and we're like, "Did we just see that?" Yeah, Man from Nowhere is fucking bad.
Man from Nowhere is an amazing movie. Something that listeners might be more familiar with would be the fight scene in the corridor from
Old Boy.
Old Boy.
Yeah, the hammer.
We just watched that tonight. I showed it to my wife for the first time.
Yeah, Old Boy is that scene is great. Look, I draw a line between action films and martial arts films.
Sure.
And martial arts films, in my opinion, the goal of a martial arts film is exhilaration. When you're done watching a martial arts movie, you should want to get up and fucking train, right? Even if you've never taken a lesson, you want to get up and fucking kick shit, right?
Yeah.
That's what a martial arts movie is about. Action movies should be about believing what you're seeing, in my opinion.
I agree.
My favorite fight scene was from Macbeth, Polanski's Macbeth, when the knights are fighting at the end. It's so heavy what they have on, and the fighting is kind of what I've seen. Because, I'm used to seeing bar brawls in real life, and how awkward and slow they are. And that choreography at the end of the film felt very realistic to me. How two guys would fight in really heavy armor, and how it's not beautifully choreographed. And how people don't do crazy kicks or anything like that. They're mostly like holding on to each other, wrestling on the ground.
Yeah.
It's hell.
Another movie that's got a really good fight scene that's a lot like that, Heather, is Robin and Marion, where Robert Shaw is the Sheriff of Nottingham and Sean Connery is Robin Hood. And there's a scene where they battle it out on the field at the end, and it's slow and cumbersome, and when the mace hits the shoulder, he's got to fucking pull it out. And yeah, it's not a dance, is it? It's a grapple.
It's like people always talk about like the ending of Rob Roy,
right,
as a great fight scene, and you look at that and you see how not stylized it is, but it's like how it's classically sort of rapier fighting, and then you look at Toshiro Mifune in Seven Samurai. That's reality. Him falling all over the mud and swinging at whatever, like a baseball bat, whatever happened. Right. All that form and function shit goes right out the window.
I tell you, for that kind of stuff, I almost hesitate to bring the name up but for all four of his movies that he made, fucking Bruce Lee was the shit, because you watched, not only was he giving you a cool fight scene, right, and you watched this amazing, you're watching an amazing human being do amazing things, but what he was also doing was he was giving you lessons in his particular philosophy. So when you watch a fight scene, for example, in Way of the Dragon, which was released in the United States as Return of the Dragon, you actually saw a physical representation of what Bruce Lee was thinking of and teaching at that time. So for anybody who's not into the martial arts, who the fuck cares? It looks cool. But for anybody who's into the martial arts, if you look at it, it's like, holy shit, he just demonstrated in this fight with Bob Wall everything that he's been teaching, right? The 5 different methods of attack, interception as superior to blocking, so on and so forth. It's amazing. By the way, the only movie directed by Bruce Lee, and shows I think what greatness could have come had he continued living.
Well, I think even if you're not a practitioner of martial arts, there's something that goes on in the quote unquote inner ear when it is real that just because someone like me is not picking up on, not completely consciously aware of it, doesn't mean that we're not getting some of that information about the reality of what's going on into a place where we're not conscious of it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just realism. You know what I mean? It's like,
I think the eye can differentiate bullshit, and the problem is that a lot of people, they grow up on their sole reference base to fighting and that kind of thing are martial arts, and they think, or martial arts movies, and they think, oh yeah, that works, right? I saw it work in a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie,
right?
And the next thing you know, they try that shit out in the world, and it's kind of crazy.
You know, back to your 4 strike rule too, man, and everything you've been telling me about John Wick, Tom. Right before you Skyped me to do this night's episode, and I look over at my TV and I have it stopped. I have about 15 minutes left. But a film that a lot of people have been digging on called The Guest. And I'll talk about it next episode in my What We've Been Watching. But it's totally adhering to that, and I really can't wait for you guys to see it. And you too, Heather, you're going to fucking love this movie if you've not seen it already. Yeah. It's kind of a Canon Films throwback thing. I don't want to give too much away. But, the fight scenes don't last very long.
Yeah, I hear nothing but good things about it.
Yeah, I'm hoping you guys
I look forward to that.
Can at least can check it out before next week, because I'd love to hear what you think about the fighting in that.
So real quick, I'm curious about how we're talking martial arts films and action films, and the fact that by definition they sort of imply either an Asian cast or whatever. And I'm curious about why aren't we globalizing our movie stars a bit more? Like the stars that are, why are there stars that are specific to Japan, and why are there stars that are specific to America? Other than that's where their specific kinds of films are made, but
the lack of diversity in Hollywood. I mean, a lot of the conversation was around the new anime film coming up, and then casting Scarlett Johansson the lead. And I was actually on Sean's thing, and it's like, well, why can't they cast someone who makes much more sense? Any of the great Japanese actresses. And it's like, well, because the suits are thinking who opens the film, and so they go for the stars. And our great stars that open films are still Caucasian men and women. It's like there's no woman in Hollywood groomed or cast that has that sort of star power, and I think it's like they don't have a chance to have that sort of star power, and I think it comes down to that. It comes to sort of like corporate or OCD, worrying about the numbers. We don't have this sort of person to open when we should. We should have a Hollywood that we have people from all different backgrounds and colors and races and shapes that can open a film. That's not just Scarlett Johansson. And I think that's why you wind up with casting decisions like this.
Well, you know, Tadanobu Asano is cast. Now, Ken Watanabe had to leave the new Scorsese movie, and Tadanobu Asano from Ichi the Killer, he's Kukihara. But it's funny because they still call him the Japanese Johnny Depp. And I don't know if that's totally fair. But let me swing it back to, like, why don't we cast a Japanese actress in Ghost in the Shell as, what's the character's name again, Tom? Kurosagi.
Major Kusanagi, yeah.
Kusanagi, right. I'm actually reading the manga right now, and it's completely convoluted and hard to follow, but that's another story. But can we even name 2 or 3 Japanese actresses?
Yeah, and the girl from Pacific Rim.
Bang. You know what?
I'm a genius.
You just perfectly cast that role, dude. You did.
Blow my mind.
Yeah, but Hollywood's not going to let her open a film.
Yeah, I agree. They won't let her near that.
They would have if Pacific Rim had been a mega hit.
Totally capable. Even if she is, she's not the lead of that film.
Can I chime in on this subject?
Please do, sir.
Okay. The fucking fact that they're going to make a live-action version of any fucking anime movie is the biggest bunch of bullshit that has ever been perpetrated on the face of this earth. That is so fucking stupid. It is just like them coming and remaking making an American version of a foreign film. Pick any title.
Magnificent Seven.
Doesn't fucking matter.
Dude, have you seen the fan film for Akira, though?
Yeah.
I watched it. Fucking bullshit. Leave it the fuck alone. It is its own thing. Look.
Or give it to Robert Rodriguez so he duplicates it frame by frame.
Say, spoken like a true animator, Langley. But go ahead. No,
listen. Look. God damn it. Why can't people come up with their own fucking original ideas?
Because there's money to be made.
Leave this shit alone. Yeah. Look, if you're going to remake Ghost in the Shell, okay, fucking cool. Do it as a 3D animated cartoon thing. Whatever. I don't fucking care. The fact that Scarlett Johansson has been cast in this bullshit of an abortion, I don't fucking care. Sorry, go ahead. It doesn't matter if she's Asian or she's not Asian. It's fucking... Look. Anime is anime.
You know, once upon a time, I would agree with you, saying that they can't duplicate Neo Tokyo. There's no way.
They can now.
Now they can. Now anything that they can draw as a cartoon, they can duplicate in the computer. So
my question isn't whether or not they can do it. It's should they do it.
I think they should to introduce it to other people. Unfortunately, we have to wait for Hollywood to do a horrible job of it. I'm not a huge anime fan if it's not hentai. So I've watched all these films.
All right.
You're just going to hold out for the Urotsuki
We just learned something about it.
It's something you should have already known. Don't be shocked. But I'd rather watch Supernatural be sitting than watch Akira. I've watched Akira. I've not cared about Akira. I can't get into anime. They could make a live-action version. It's like, as soon as you mention, like, those sort of movies and those sort of landscapes, I think right away of Blade Runner.
Right.
Sure.
Why? It's like it lives in the medium of anime. The reason anime was so crazy back in the day, because Japan didn't have sort of the Hollywood technology we did, so they made these crazy animations, and also with their manga. And now that we're sort of like on the level of everyone having crazy film technology, it's like, why don't you do it? I would have loved the country of origin to make the movie of it.
Sure.
With some great visionary filmmaker over there. Because as we've also discussed, is that story is also very Japanese. It's the reason Old Boy didn't work as a remake. Because it's an Asian film. It's a Korean film. It's about this the sort of ideas that exist within that society, and to try to port that over and own it as an American property, it didn't work.
Well, it's part of globalization, though, isn't it? In a way.
Absolutely.
Which I'd say at that point, is it really?
I think
as far as is it indigenous only to Korea at that point? I don't know.
Well, the sort of stories that are behind that, I think that's something that's much more universal, which you probably could remake and port over, is something like Ichi the Killer. Because I don't think it's specific to any country or any culture.
Scorsese's Ichi the Killer.
When you die, you would die. That would be great. But you would kill in a different sort of way. But that's
John Woo's Taxi Driver.
I would watch John Woo's Taxi Driver.
I would too.
Mike's Taxi Driver.
So great.
See, I would not. I'm like, it's fucking Taxi Driver. Leave it the fuck alone. John Woo makes some other movie.
I don't know. I love movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I'm not against remakes. But if you gave someone great at that property, someone who's a very competent, visionary director, I would love to see their reinterpret of Leatherface. I mean, that's why I read comics, and why, again, I love Batman, because you could take the character and you can create your own interpretation and just keep making that. Like, every year make a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film with a different director.
I feel like as long as you have something interesting to say, interpret any story. Any story stories have been interpreted and reinterpreted for years.
Of course.
But this idea of Gus Van Sant's Psycho remake.
Oh, I will never watch. That's sacrilegious. I have never watched.
Stop it.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
He's not bringing anything new to it. And I love Norman. I love the sequels. I love Part 2 and 3. Those are all, you would say, interpretations of the first film, because I know they're not going back to block stories to write them.
Here's what I think you do. what I think you should do. So you're inspired by X movie. Let's say Blade Runner. So you go and make Akira. Right?
Right.
You're inspired by Akira, then go and make something that's inspired you. In other words, don't fucking remake Akira. Like, make something cool.
But you don't have the brand name to help
fuck
open
that.
it.
I think it's the collision between like the as an appreciator of the art form. Like, do I want this mess with maybe, who knows? There's plenty wrong with Akira. so maybe they might make it iron those bugs out. I don't know.
The only thing I like Akira is little talking spider things that everyone hates.
There's only one right way to make Akira. Even if you were going to do another animated version, live action, whatever, and that's to do it as a series, because that manga is so fucking involved. It's 38 dense-ass issues that the classic anime film didn't even scratch the surface of. When that movie first came out, motherfuckers were bitching. I saw it in theaters when it first came out. And the purists, I lived in Berkeley, California, Comics and Comics, Best of Two Worlds, huge anime community, even that early on, and they were fucking livid, man, because there was nothing there. It was more like an extended trailer for the manga that they had all loved. So
Right.
I don't know. When people start talking about turning manga into movies, I always point to fucking Guyver. And say,
Guyver, amazing! Come on.
Shout out to Screaming Mad George and Steve Wang, but yeah, Jesus.
I watched the entire anime series when it first came out, and it was the same episode over and over and over and over and over.
Dude, have you seen the live-action Fist of the North Star?
Yeah.
Hey, you know what a good version is? I'll tell you this. Crying Freeman with Mark Dacascos is actually quite good.
I've not seen that, and I've heard that before. So
Tom highly recommends that. Tom in the third person. Highly recommends that.
Anything with Mark Dacascos is at least watchable.
Not anything. That guy did. What was that?
Stairway to Heaven.
I Am Omega. It's like a cross between I Am Legend and Omega Man. And
yeah, that was the Mockbuster movie. Yeah,
it's an
from Asylum.
It is the cinematic equivalent of someone shitting in your hot tub. It's so bad.
I Am Omega. Yeah. I love the title.
It's he even does the fucking conversation with the bust of Caesar.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we all in agreement that nobody has gotten I Am Legend right yet on film?
Yep. Yeah, me and Gregory Lamberson were talking about that.
I like Night of the Living Dead.
Ooh, Heather with a chill shot.
Yeah. Although you know, Christopher Lee wanted Hammer Films to make I Am Legend back in the day, and can you fucking imagine?
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
That could have been great. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, right down to you throw every Hammer glamour girl outside the house. The question is who plays Neville and who plays Corvus?
Movies. Yeah. Sean's like describing this thing, and all these hot chicks are outside.
Well, it happens in the book, because Neville's lonely at that point.
I know.
And the female vampires get nude and try to get him to come out because he's so fucking horny. It's in the book.
Right on.
And, and that's never been done in one of the film versions. So, but like I said, the question is who plays the antagonist and the protagonist? Pushing your Lee,
Yeah, I admit Christopher Lee is in the lead would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You know what? It'd be even awesome now.
Yeah.
As an old man, it'd be even awesome.
Yeah. You know what? I could go for that.
Yep.
Actually.
Yeah. So there you go. So I guess we're kind of talked out on this one. We've gone a little long, but that's cool. So So I guess we're going to wind up. So for the Bonus Material Podcast, I'm Thom Carnell.
I'm Sean.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Langley.
And please go hit our Facebook page, The Bonus Material on Facebook, and check out our blog spot, The Bonus Material at blogspot.com.
And let us know what you think. If you've enjoyed listening to us, if you enjoy the blog, if you don't.
If you want to just tell me I'm an asshole.
Right. then please send all your hate mail to Thom Carnell.
And hopefully we'll be making this podcast more easily available to you all on stuff like iTunes and Stitcher very, very soon. Downloadable so you can take it with you. Don't have to stream it off YouTube. We're just kind of getting our legs under us. And again, thanks for listening. The Bonus Material Podcast. We're out. Night, guys.
Remember, stay scary.